Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you'll enjoy listening to.
Join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical, transformational journey.
Welcome back to the Inspired Action Podcast. My name is Jay, and this is Pod 131, and I'm here with my very happy, as always, co-host Leta Herman.
Welcome back, Inspired Actioneers. Today we're continuing our new Season 8 on the topic of the 13 ghost points and authenticity in general. And remember, in our last pod, we talked about how the ghosts of life can hook into us and stick with us from the past.
Yeah, we called that Pod 130 Hook, Line, and Stinkers. And we want to have you decide it's time to be free from those hooks.
So let's take it to the next step and talk about how can we free ourselves from those hooks. And I think this episode should be about watching ourselves for a bit. Don't you think, Jay? Just becoming the watcher.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for asking. Yes. I think we always start with alchemy, right? In this case, there's a lot of time there's a lot of time in our lives where we identify maybe in a negative way. I don't really like positive or negative, right or wrong, good or bad, but there's times when we maybe don't like ourselves, but often those dislikes are the result of some past trauma or traumatic event. And that's these hooks that we're talking about. So we want to have you first be able to observe them if you haven't already. So this week, we're going to have you do a little bit of homework, if you choose to accept it, about spending some time with yourself, trying to decide, what are the hooks? Where are they? Where did they come from? What about you is the true you? And what have you acquired along the way that isn't the true you?
Right. We introduced the concept in our last episode of true chi, which you could call authentic chi. And it's about who you truly are. And the idea behind the ghost points is maybe something in your life has messed with your true chi. And then your true chi becomes what I like to call, air quotes, not true chi.
Right.
Did you see the air quotes?
I did see them. They were in the air.
Which in Chinese medicine is translated
Which
as...
is not true quotes.
Right. Not true quotes for the not true chi.
Right.
Which is in Chinese medicine, they translate that as evil chi. And we don't like that translation. We think that not true chi is better because that's what it really means.
I guess we could say it was lost in translation.
Right.
Right. So, Leta, how can we identify true chi versus not true chi in ourselves or in another person?
It's pretty easy, actually. When you're being fake or perhaps not truly yourself, or when trauma is causing you to be someone you're not, you inherently know that about yourself when it's happening. Though, you may have done it for so long, it's like you forgot the true chi way. But most of the time, if you really pay attention to yourself, you know when you're not being true.
Yeah, so I guess it's true chi or not true chi. That is the question.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's hard to say for me. I have this accent, right? Although I don't have an accent. But anyone can experience not true chi no matter how long they've been in this trauma cycle, right?
Yeah. So for this week, all we're doing is watching and observing ourselves to see where this not true chi appears in our lives.
Yeah, and maybe some of us have more than others, and that's okay. Just be kind, be gentle, no judgment about yourself in any way. We're just asking you to look maybe from an impartial point of view that you may have not done in a very, very long time. So here's the fundamental question I want you to ponder. When are you being truly yourself and when are you not being yourself?
Yes.
You kind of know when
Yes.
you've been nudged out.
Yep. And we always say the best place to start is to watch yourself with anything alchemical.
Yeah, and be nice to yourself.
Yes.
Love.
Yes.
Yes.
Gentle, kind.
Gentle.
Yes.
This is a process. It's not a one-day podcast, fix it, and you're done.
Yeah.
You're already perfect.
Yeah.
It's just
You don't know it or you don't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
You just got to get in there and poke around a little.
Yep. Now, these emotional or traumatic hooks can show up in so many ways, so we thought we'd give you a few hints where to look for them for your assignment.
But wait on the hints. Hold those hints.
Hold those hints.
Let's tell everyone what's going on in the inspired action world.
Great idea.
Okay, so for those of you who are new to the podcast, this is the Inspired Action Podcast. We have a lot of cool stuff that we do. We've been doing it for a few years now. And we recommend that if you're new, go back to season 1 and just
It's a great
listen.
intro.
It's a great intro. It's a little rough, but bear with us. That's where we are today,
Yes.
right? But you got to start
We
somewhere.
had to practice.
We had to
Yes.
practice.
And we also just launched a brand new podcast called 5-Element Fridays.
What?
Yes. And it's a quick 5-element concept for
When is it on?
On Fridays.
What?
And the idea is you can take the concepts into your weekends and play with them. You know, you can go to a party and do 5 elements.
Oh, yes.
walking
You'll
with
be
your
super
friends.
popular.
You'll be so popular.
Yes. Actually, people love it when you ask them to walk and talk. And that also goes hand in hand with our live event that is new in the Alchemy Learning Center called what, Leta?
5-Element Fridays.
Wow, what a coinky-dink, right? It goes
Yes.
with the podcast. It comes out on the same day. 5 o'clock is the live event.
So if you want to attend a 5-Element Friday,
Please come and join us.
come and join us. You can check it out on our website, alchemylearningcenter.com. You'll see the dates there and everything
We already have
you need will be there.
We already have a bunch of cool people from all over the world popping
Yes.
in. We have some of our really talented teacher students that are helping us with amazing insights. I'm enjoying them already, and I'm like, blown away how much fun it is.
And it's at 5 o'clock Eastern time, which is a odd time on the East Coast, but it's a time that everyone in the world could potentially attend.
I know you say that, but that is when the weekend starts.
That is when the weekend starts.
5 o'clock on Friday.
There you go.
Whoop, whoop.
What a way to
5
go
o'clock
in-
somewhere, right?
Yeah, and it's early Saturday morning
And
in
you can even have
Australia.
a glass of wine with the podcast.
Oh.
Because that 5 o'clock thing.
Or a cup of coffee if you're in Australia.
Yeah.
To wake you up
Get
Saturday
your
morning.
caffeine going. Yes, great.
Yes.
So again, we have a lot of stuff going on. We also have our monthly subscriptions. And right now it's still early bird pricing, just for a little bit longer. No long-term commitment. Stay as long as you want. It's a great deal. Check it out, alchemylearningcenter.com.
Yes, and we have another exciting thing happening this fall that pertains specifically to this episode.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's from our Master Alchemy program, which we've been running now for quite a number of years, since pre-COVID. And we are launching a Ghost Points mentorship, which again is an alchemy learning program, and it's super cool. It's a 6-month program, and there's still time to sign up for it.
I can't believe we have to be pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID.
I know. That's a ghost, huh?
Wow. That's a hookity hook. It's got us all,
That's a
right?
hook that's got us all,
So,
yeah.
and this is not just about the Ghost Points, the mentorship. You're also going to learn the stages 1 or 2 of alchemy, which are very powerful, that create ease in your life and help you release the baggage of this lifetime.
Wow.
Which is better than losing your baggage at the airport.
Yes.
Right? You get to decide where you're going to dump your baggage.
Right. And so the program, it's like an amazing journey of self-cultivation. It's great for acupuncturists or anyone who wants to join the Master Alchemy program to actually learn how to do this work. But we also invite really serious lifelong learners who want to move forward in their alchemical journey.
Yeah, which is where I love to be. Self-cultivation and alchemy, it's great. So that's fantastic. It's a lot more coming too as well. We have live webinars coming up on Thursday nights and just lots of cool stuff. alchemylearningcenter.com.
And if you have any questions or you want us to take a look at your 5 elements, in
Yeah, we've
your
been getting a lot of
stack
videos lately.
Yeah,
Lots.
people have been posting them in our Inspired Action Facebook group, or you could email us at leta@inspiredactionpodcast.com or jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com. So please feel free to reach out. We love hearing from the listeners, and it's kind of fun in the podcast group to look at people's videos together.
Yeah, we like to look at their walk. So also, if you like any moment of this podcast or any episodes in the past, please rate and review on Apple or Google or wherever you listen to your podcast, because it really does help. People find the podcast every day, and we're so grateful that you're listening, and you're still listening.
And it's working because all of you that are rating us, it's the podcast has been increasing in listenership quite quite exponentially
So the
lately.
bump. Thank you for the bump.
Thank
bump.
you.
All right. So I guess we should get back to the actual podcast later.
Yeah.
What do you think?
How about that?
All right. Let's go.
right.
I'm watching you.
Yeah. So we're talking about watching yourself.
Say, there we go.
Yeah.
And, we're going to give you some hints and tricks on, people might get stuck along the way where you, the listener, might not be living according to your true chi.
Yes.
Right?
And
That's what we're going to do. Some tips and tricks and hints.
yes.
Okay.
And that's what the point of the ghost points is. They are themes in our lives, themes where we get tripped up, we get challenged, we find that we just can't be our authentic selves for whatever reason.
Yeah, we kind of get lost in the way. We get stuck. We get hooked, as we keep saying, the hooks.
Yes.
And they just kind of take us off our path.
Yeah. And so let's just go through the things that you can watch specifically in your homework assignment if you choose to accept it. Let's start with the most obvious starting place, which is how you interact and interface with the world.
Yeah. As you go through life, just kind of observe yourself as you prepare to greet someone or go to a social event or get ready for a social event. Or how do you speak to someone at the checkout line at the grocery store? If someone's standing behind you and they say hi or they say something, how do you interact? Do you get uncomfortable? Do you get nervous? Do you get all sweaty? Do you like, just start to see how you are and then before you interact.
Yeah. And just ask yourself, what did that feel like?
That's what I'm like at the grocery store.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, lady, how are you?
I bet you are.
Just joking.
And so the question is, do you feel like yourself in those situations?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting place. And it's kind of fun, but it's a little like, wow, am I like that? Do I feel that? You have to start to be observing things in your body, how things feel, your mind.
Good point.
Yeah, so I feel like, it's a good common place, and we all get tripped up there. So it's a good place to just say, we can do it when we're looking at other people.
Yeah.
But when we start to look at ourselves, it's a little more challenging.
It's harder.
Yeah.
And so that's hint number 1. And then we're going to go a little deeper into each of these themes. And during the season, we're gonna actually take each one of these hints and dive way deep into it for each podcast episode. But let's just keep going, Jay.
Yeah. And so, Leta, how are you authentically when you meet people? I've seen it, but give the listeners a little.
Oh, I love meeting people. I love it, love it, love it. But I do get nervous because of my fire. Fire people can get a little shy.
Yeah. Well, once you get to know them, you're great. But yeah. I agree. All right.
Yep.
So again, you can look at your elements and then connect it to all of the different emotions.
So, and eventually we're going to really look at the 5 elements and how this works, because if you feel shy and you're fire, that would be normal. It doesn't necessarily mean you have a traumatic experience.
Or let's do the quickie. We'll go down the list. So wood is private.
Yes.
Fire is shy.
Yeah.
Earth
loves to be around people.
They love
they
people,
don't
social.
tend to hold back.
Metal.
Metal can be either way. They like one-on-one interactions. It really depends on.
They kind of hang back.
They hang back, but it also depends on the authenticity of the other person.
Right. That's a good one for metal.
Yeah.
And then water is definitely socially awkward.
Yes, and yet loves a good interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you can be silly. They love to be silly.
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
All right. So that's just a quickie on that. So you
Yeah.
can start to, as you observe yourself, see where that's going. And, come from an act of trusting yourself, not doubting yourself.
Yes. Well, that's the next one, Jay. The next
What?
thing. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Okay, so the next.
Wasn't that funny?
Yeah, no.
I've been funnier.
So the next theme or the next hint.
No, I haven't. Okay.
So the next theme or the next hint is to look at where in your life self-doubt comes in, because that could be coming from not true chi as well.
Yeah, and it's about how you see the world.
Yeah.
All right, so that's hint number 2. And I doubted myself for remembering that, but that's self-doubt, right? And then the next one, number 3, is how you see the world.
Yes. Do you see the world as a threat, for example? Are you on guard all the time?
And do you need a lot of protection as a result of that?
Yes. And then you can't be yourself. And then it's like you're hiding in a fortress somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe if you owned a fortress, like a castle, that would be perfect. So that's hint number 3, the fortress, right? And then the next one, number 4, as you're walking your walk, literally in your life, the question is, can you watch yourself? Are you on the road in life or taking a detour? Metaphorically, right?
Yes. And that can be a tough one for people. Sometimes we think we're on our road, but we're not. And then Who's to say that the supposed detour isn't part of your destiny anyway? I mean, it might look like you're really on a detour, but that's a deeper topic. Like I said, we're going to go into all of these much more deeply. But the next one is trickier, actually. It's about your deepest, like unconscious beliefs and whether they correspond with what you think or believe.
Wow.
That's
There's a lot of that
tricky one.
going on right now in the world, right?
Yes.
I'm just going to like leave it at that, but it's true. You may have some core beliefs that aren't really true to you, but they're embedded in there.
Yeah, from past traumatic experiences or from people in your life who constantly gave you negative messages that weren't true to you.
Again, a lot of that going on right now. Just saying.
Yeah.
And the next one is about obsessive thinking, which goes perfect with the one we just talked about. And that is, you finding that you can't stop thinking about certain things, even if you want to stop.
Yeah, it's like you have no choice. That's the not true you. You should have a choice.
Yeah, and then we go to my favorite. How are you speaking about yourself in the world? How do you explain? How do you describe? How do you tell someone like about yourself?
Jay, this is where you have basically built your whole alchemical strategy practice from like helping people clear the way they speak about themselves. We do it so inauthentically so often. We say bad things about ourselves. We denigrate ourselves,
Sometimes people do it for humor.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just do it because it's a bad habit. It is a great place to start when you're trying to work on your stuff.
Yeah. And remember, it's also not about bragging either, because that's not true chi either.
No, bragging is usually trying to compensate from a feeling of inferiority, I think, inside. Yeah.
Yeah. So this hint is about speaking authentically and truly.
Yes, I love that a lot. That's definitely one of my favorites. And then the next one is about watching yourself and whether you've stored some heart pains deep inside.
Yeah. And you'll notice them when something like really mild is happening in your life, and then you have a way bigger reaction than is warranted because it's bringing up that old heart pain for you.
Yeah. And that's a tough one because you're in the moment and you're reacting, but now we're having you watch and you're having yourself observe. So I think it's a good time to look at that if you have that in your life a lot. If you're really frustrated with someone or something, and you can look at it. And then the next hint is whether you find it difficult to be intimate with your loved ones.
Yes, because from a true chi perspective, you really should have nothing to hide or protect because you'd be so good in yourself, like love yourself, that you can then share yourself, all of you, with someone else.
Which is also, I think, really hard to do sometimes in this society.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely
It's challenging. All of these are challenging for people, for sure.
And then that leads to guilt and shame. Are you carrying that inside of you? Because if the traumatic event or traumatic feeling, if so, it's definitely messing with your true chi.
Yeah, and maybe it's more about you not being able to play by your own rules, which is our next hint. Do you play by your own rules? Because maybe somebody else is controlling you somehow.
Yeah, which is really about letting that interfere with your true chi. Someone needs to do a count on how many times you said true chi.
Yes. Yes.
And how many times I mispronounced true chi. It's probably equal.
Yes.
No, it's about,
And then
letting that interfere.
Yes. Yeah. And then the final hint is to look at the deepest one, look at your identity as a whole. Are you the person you truly want to be in terms of how you see yourself? Like, maybe not even want to be, like, are you who you truly are in the world? I guess that's a weird question, but
I think it's an interesting question. I don't know if I want to say weird. Another big thing going around right now. Weird. You're weird.
No, not weird.
Not weird.
You are not weird.
No, you're not weird. If you listen to this, you are definitely not weird. That's all I'm going to say.
It might be a little nerdy, but not weird.
Right. We'll definitely go with that. But, I think when you're trying to look at these different themes, that's a lot of hints. You're going to have to listen to this again, people, because even I'm going to have to listen to it again. There were so many tips and tricks. That was a lot, Leta.
I know, but you know what? This
themes.
is just a taste of what's to come because we're going to talk about each one of these themes.
Yeah, and I think one or two of them will stand out for people as you're doing it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not every single one, but you never know. No judgment.
So we want to help you understand how you can cultivate authenticity around these themes. So we kind of mentioned some of the negative aspects of each of these themes, but we're going to be bringing in what would be the way to cultivate a
Right.
positive aspect of each of these themes. For example, self-doubt. Well, that would be trust. Trusting yourself.
Yeah.
What a concept.
What a concept. You know,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that we're all coming to this work from different places, different ages, different cultures. Some of us have just a few negative life experiences. Some have debilitating trauma, and some have very little. They come
Yeah.
to us and they have very little, but they're very interested in the work. So just remember, we're going to peel back the onion in layers and be gentle.
Yes, being gentle with yourself is most important when you're being the watcher, because it does require that you become a little brave when you have trauma in your history, even to look at yourself. Because trauma often makes us just, want to pull the covers over our heads and try to forget everything. So watching yourself can be triggering. And so it's really important that we keep telling you, be gentle with yourself. And if you can't do it, that's fine. Just, pull back a little bit, and maybe without too much conscious intention, you can still do a little watching, but not trigger yourself.
Sure. And some of us really need some help, someone to simply hold our hands in this process. And that's why the 13 Ghost Point treatments, the sessions are, almost always done in person. I
Yeah.
would say always, unless
Yeah.
some extremely,
case, yeah.
So that's why you can literally have someone hold your hand during the session. And, Leta does a lot of these treatments for people all over the world. And now we have a number of certified practitioners available all over the world. And it's growing every 6 months to a year or two that we're graduating more people. So if
Yeah.
you really feel like you need that, it's there
Yeah.
for you.
But our goal for this season is to reach out to everyone across the world and offer this work as a way to help you work on yourself gently and lovingly, and maybe release some of your own not true chi.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying it. And, we're just going to be here. You can listen to this podcast a couple times. We have more coming up on this. So it's a journey. It's not a race. This is something that takes time, and we're here. And
Yeah.
But, there's a community of alchemists, and it's on the Alchemy Learning Center or the Inspired Action Podcast.com-ish stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know. Find us. There's other people like you.
There are. That's a good point. There's other people like you. You're not alone,
Not
even
alone.
though alchemy can feel lonely.
Yeah. It's a journey of one that you can take with many.
We can take it with many.
All right. Go
Beautiful.
have a good journey.
Okay.
Have fun. See you on 5 Element Fridays. Bye. You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast, and you've reached the end. Woohoo! Why not celebrate a little bit and click that subscribe button right there? We love having you with us on this journey, and we want it to continue.
You can also rate and review this podcast. And if you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews, and your reviews help other people find this podcast as well. You can also be a part of this podcast yourself by submitting a voice recording message and emailing it to us at leta@inspiredactionpodcast.com or jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com.
And if you want, you can join our Facebook group or follow us on Instagram.
Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and remember to hug the dog. All right, testing of the emergency podcast broadcasting system from the world headquarters of the Inspired Action Podcast.
This is definitely an emergency podcast.
Oh my God.
It is the number one emergency podcast.
The world is ending. Wait, let's do a podcast first.
Yes.
Because everyone needs one for the end.